What if I told you there's a psychological technique that can make smart, confident people stop trusting their own memory without yelling, without threats, without looking abusive at all? Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing you don't trust your own memory anymore. Not because of illness, not because of trauma, but because another person trained you not to. Today, we're breaking down one of the most dangerous psychological manipulation patterns ever documented. Not dramatically, not emotionally, but clearly. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to spot it instantly. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Before we begin, this video is not about accusing people, and it is not about labeling every disagreement as abuse. Gaslighting is a very specific psychological pattern, one that has been examined in clinical psychology, trauma research, and interpersonal dynamics for decades. Understanding this pattern is not about becoming suspicious of everyone around you. It is about restoring clarity in situations where clarity has been systematically undermined. Gaslighting doesn't just happen in toxic romantic relationships. It happens in families, in workplaces, in friendships. And here's the scary part. It often targets the smartest person in the room. Several years ago, a woman in her early 30s named Anna sat across from me in a bar and said something that stayed with me. She said, "I don't trust my own memory anymore. I write everything down now. Not because I forget, but just to make sure I'm not imagining things." Anna wasn't confused. She was not unstable. She was not unintelligent. She was experiencing gaslighting. And here's the terrifying part, and it didn't start badly. Stay with me, because near the end of this video, I'll give you the one-question reality test psychologists use to tell gaslighting apart from normal disagreement, and to detect gaslighting early before self-doubt takes over. It's simple, and it's often the moment clarity begins. To understand gaslighting, we first need to clarify what it is not. Gaslighting is not disagreement. It is not having different memories. It is not even being wrong. Psychologically, gaslighting is a repeated pattern of interaction designed to destabilize another person's trust in their own perception, memory, or judgment. The goal is not to persuade someone of a different opinion. The goal is to make them doubt their capacity to know what is real. Gaslighting rarely begins with cruelty. In Anna's case, it began with reassurance. Her partner was calm, articulate, and emotionally expressive. When disagreements arose, he never raised his voice. He simply disagreed, politely, convincingly. When she recalled events differently or disagreements happened, he never raised his voice. He would smile and say, "I think you're mixing things up," or "You're remembering it wrong. That's not what happened. You've always been sensitive about this." At first, Anna assumed she was mistaken. She trusted him more than herself. That trust was the entry point. This happens to people every day. Someone sends you a message. It's clear. You read it. You react emotionally. Later, when you bring it up, they say, "That's not what I meant." You go back and reread the message. It hasn't changed. But somehow you start questioning yourself. You reread it again and again. And instead of trusting your reaction, you ask, "What if I misunderstood?" That pause, that hesitation, that self-correction, that's where gaslighting begins. This is why gaslighting almost never begins with confusion. It begins with trust. The individual who gaslights often appears calm, rational, articulate, and emotionally attuned. They may even seem unusually reasonable. This establishes credibility, which later allows doubt to be planted. Manipulation is most effective when it wears the mask of rationality. And here's what shocks most people. Gaslighting doesn't work on weak minds. It works best on thoughtful ones. Human beings do not experience reality in isolation. We confirm what we see and remember through others, especially those we trust. When a trusted person repeatedly contradicts your perception, the brain experiences uncertainty as threat. Stress increases, confidence drops, self-doubt expands. The mind begins searching for stability, even if that stability comes from the very person causing the confusion. Consider the workplace. A highly competent professional in a law firm. She kept records of every instruction she received. Over time, her manager began subtly rewriting history. Deadlines were changed retroactively. Instructions were denied. Mistakes were attributed to her that documentation clearly disproved. When she presented evidence, the response was, "And you're taking this too personally. You might be burned out. This isn't like you." Eventually, she stopped trusting her own records. If any part of this sounds familiar, don't click away yet. You don't need to explain it here, but you might want to stay, because the next part explains why smart people stay trapped and how they start getting out. Because understanding the pattern is often the moment clarity begins. Gaslighting isn't limited to authority figures. It thrives in social groups. Imagine a group chat. A joke is made at your expense. It crosses a line. You feel it. Later, when you bring it up, the response is, "It was just a joke. Why are you so sensitive? Nobody else had a problem with it." Notice what just happened. The conversation isn't about the joke anymore. It's about your reaction. Your emotional response becomes the problem. That shift is gaslighting. Gaslighting has adapted to the digital age. It's no longer just personal, it's public. Legitimate emotional reactions are dismissed as, "You're overreacting. It's not that deep. Touch grass. You're too online." When enough people repeat this, even valid responses begin to feel illegitimate. Self-doubt becomes normalized. This is the paradox of gaslighting. The internal experience of someone being gaslit is often deeply misunderstood. People assume that those affected are gullible or naive. In reality, the opposite is often true. The more reflective a person is, the more vulnerable they become. Instead of reacting defensively, they self-correct. They replay conversations. They search for clarity. They assume responsibility. This is not weakness. In healthy relationships, these are strengths. In manipulative ones, they're exploited. It is intelligence being used against itself. Under gaslighting conditions, intelligence becomes leverage. Gaslighting does not feel dramatic. It feels cumulative. Small contradictions accumulate. Each instance feels minor. Any single moment can be dismissed. But over time, the cumulative effect is powerful. Memory becomes questionable. The individual begins asking, "What if I'm wrong? What if I misunderstood? What if this is my fault?" Psychologists sometimes call this cognitive erosion, the slow breakdown of trust in one's own mind, and it's devastating. In family systems, gaslighting is often deeply entrenched. One adult client described growing up hearing phrases like, "That never happened. You're exaggerating. You were always dramatic." Years later, this person struggled to assert even basic emotional needs, unsure whether their experiences were valid. The gaslighting was not loud, it was constant. It's important to make this distinction. Healthy people forget things. They misremember. They disagree. The difference lies in pattern and power. Gaslighting involves consistent denial, refusal to consider evidence, and narrative shifts that always benefit one person. Whether intentional or unconscious, the effect is the same: psychological destabilization. Normal conflict sounds like, "I remember it differently," while gaslighting sounds like, "You're remembering wrong." Healthy people consider evidence. Gaslighters erase it. Pattern, not intent, is the giveaway. Some gaslighting is overt, direct denial and dominance, but some is covert and far more damaging. Covert gaslighting hides behind concern. "I'm worried about you. Maybe you're stressed. I just want what's best for you. Doubt is redirected inward, while the manipulator remains calm and credible. Same damage, better disguise. Gaslighting creates dependence by eroding internal reference points. When reality feels unstable, people cling to whoever feels certain. Ironically, the person causing the confusion often becomes the anchor. This is why gaslighting feels so disorienting and why leaving it can feel terrifying. Most people don't leave gaslighting situations in anger. They leave in silence. There's often a calm realization, not outrage, not proof, just awareness. Something feels consistently wrong. This brings us to one of the most important insights in the promised bonus. This is the moment everything changes. There is usually one quiet moment that marks the beginning of recovery. Not confrontation, not proof, just awareness. Now here's the test. Clinicians often rely on one simple question before analyzing intent. After interacting with someone, ask yourself, do I feel clearer or more confused? Healthy interactions increase clarity, even when they're difficult. Gaslighting increases confusion. Confusion is not a failure to understand. It is often the signal. Recovery from gaslighting does not begin with arguments. It begins with consistency, written records, external perspectives, gradual rebuilding of self-trust. Reality becomes solid again, one piece at a time. The goal is not to prove anything. The goal is to stabilize reality. Gaslighting works by disrupting reality. Recovery works by restoring it. What becomes consistent becomes trustworthy again. If there is one final lesson to take from this video, it is this. If this video gave language to something you felt but never named, your confusion was not accidental. It was shaped. Understanding restores orientation, and orientation restores agency. If this helped you see your experiences more clearly, this channel exists for that exact purpose. We explore psychology slowly, calmly, and honestly, without exaggeration or fear. You're welcome to subscribe if you'd like more clarity like this. And if this helped, just comment, I see it now. No explanation needed. Sometimes being seen is enough.